I admire people who do difficult things and swim against the tide. The truth is, it's easy for me to sit here and complain and speak out against things like Antifa and Black Lives Matter and vaccine mandates and whatnot. That's what you're here to see. It's what I believe, and the First pays me to do that, so it works for everybody. But it wasn't so easy for other people out there. And I will tell you, one of the enduring images I remember from all this insanity when BLM and all the craziness was happening was watching this guy, who I didn't know, with the Orlando Magic, standing while everyone else didn't.
Perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
I tell my sons that's the type of man you want to be. Be that guy. And very proud to welcome that guy on to I'm Right. Jonathan Isaac, of course, NBA superstar with the Orlando Magic and author of a great book, Why I Stand. Jonathan, why'd you stand?
Thank you so much for having me, Jesse, first off. But why I stood was actually pretty simple to me. What happened to George Floyd was obviously tragic and awful. But what I tried to do was take a step back and think about what was the best way for me to respond in this moment. And during that time, there was so much pressure on the NBA players to have to kneel for the national anthem and to wear a Black Lives Matter t-shirt. But as I looked at my life, I said, I know that the love of Jesus Christ is what has truly changed me, what has truly supported my life, and I've seen it support so many other people's lives. And so I decided to not wear the t-shirt, not kneel for the national anthem, and stand up and pretty much just give the gospel as the antidote and the greatest message that I can see for the times that we're living in.
Amen. What a light to shine. And you say there was pressure, and obviously I know that must have been true because we saw this infect all professional sports, but pressure from where? From who? Why did so many NBA players feel this pressure? I don't believe for a second that Jonathan Isaac was the only one out there who wanted to stand, who probably picked up on a scam when he saw one. I'm sure there were others, but why did everyone else succumb to pressure? Where did this pressure come from?
Well, it was definitely, I would say, society at the time because of how large, the Black Lives Matter organization and just the movement was, and everybody kind of got swept up into it. And so you had organizations coming out and, commercials and, people posting about it and everything. So there was just immense pressure to conform to the moment. And then once you got into the bubble, there were two teams who had already knelt for the national anthem before us. And so it kind of was a domino effect where guys said, we don't have a choice. This is something that we have to do because we don't want to be the team that doesn't kneel, and we especially don't want to be the player that doesn't kneel. But for me, it was just bigger. I didn't want to join into a fight. Everything had become political, so much so that whether you wore the t-shirt or not or didn't, you were pretty much making a statement about who you are and what you believe. And people had already pinned that if you didn't wear the shirt and if you didn't kneel, you were this type of person, an evil person to a degree. And so, I just rejected that notion, and I know what it is that I believe. And I know that the message of the cross is ultimately what is going to change the hearts of men, because it is the hearts of men that need to change. Racism is not the only thing that plagues our society, and it doesn't, and it's an individual base. It's from one person to the other. And so, that's why I decided to do what I did.
Jonathan, the NBA is obviously something I grew up with. I played basketball my whole childhood, very poorly, not quite as good as Jonathan Isaac, but I played, and it's just something my cousins and I always watched. In my opinion, just my personal opinion, it's more American than baseball. NBA is as American as apple pie. Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Magic, like this is how I grew up. And I don't watch anymore, brother. I don't. And I don't know that I'll ever get over watching a sports league that I have adored my whole life overwhelmingly come out, forgetting the Black Lives Matter stuff, come out against the country I love. I found it to be so stunning and disheartening, and this isn't unique to the NBA, NFL, all of them, I just dropped them all, of people who are the most blessed people in the world. And I know I'm one of those people too, hating the place that blessed them. Where does that come from? Is that just misguidance? Is it evil somewhere? What is it?
Well, I think just, times are changing and everything has become so political to where, the decisions that organizations are making, there's pressure on them as well to conform, to march to a certain drumbeat. But, at the end of the day, the NBA is, their own organization and they get to do what they want to do. Even if it does, offend other people or, leave other people out, but it's ultimately up to them. But I'm here and I decided to write the book to give people my journey and my story about how I led up to the moment of standing, and that's just where we're at.
What kind of backlash you get in the locker room, or did you get a lot of guys patting you on the back saying, "Hey, man, I'm with you. I don't want to take the heat"?
Well, I would say there's definitely more backlash. There were a couple guys who understood where I was coming from, and I even had the opportunity to have, conversations with guys in other sports leagues that wanted to, stand for the national anthem, but were afraid of the moment and what would happen to them. But the backlash was there, and it's granted, to go against the grain and stand for ultimately what you believe in when it's not the popular opinion. I expected it, and I definitely got it. But there ultimately was a sea of encouragement and people who agreed with what I had to say and believed it for themselves.
Vaccines. One last thing. It wasn't just a BLM thing. You were loudly about personal freedom when it came to vaccines. And to the NBA's credit, actually, there have been a few of these guys. I know I've seen Kyrie Irving take a lot of heat about this. You're professional athletes, probably the greatest athletes on the planet, with the exception of maybe soccer players. I don't know. I guess we could have that argument. But you were not people in danger of coronavirus. You're just simply not. There's nobody fat out there in the NBA, no one old with pre-existing conditions. And yet they drop these mandates on you guys, and you're one of the few who stood up. Why?
Well, to me, again, the decision to get a vaccine or not getting a vaccine, it became so political so fast. And ultimately, the decision that you made on it, again, people framed it as you're an evil person. And then you have the media and their wanting to get an agenda across and then being biased to a certain degree about, what people decided to do. I just was able to take a step back and say, you know what, I can kind of see what's going on. And I really had my kind of eye-opening moment when, my position was completely misrepresented by the Rolling Stone article, to where I was like, okay, this thing really isn't about a vaccine. But early on, I just took a step back and said, look, I'm healthy. I'm okay. I don't have any comorbidities. I've already had COVID, so I have a level of natural immunity, and this is not something that I need. And so I just made that decision for myself. But to see people's religious and medical freedom be denied, see people lose their jobs, it was distasteful. And so I just said, you know what, this isn't something for me, and I'm gonna, stand up and use my voice and try to advocate for those people.
Wild. You get better science these days than you do, or from the NBA than you do from the Center for Disease Control. Jonathan Isaac, the book is Why I Stand. I appreciate you, brother. I wish you the best.
Yeah, thanks so much. I got it here, and just, appreciate everyone to go out and get it on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, anywhere you get books. Thank you so much for having me, Jesse.